Stop buying bad PSUs. Let's get you the best power supply for PC 2024. Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Buying the best power supply for PC in 2024? It's totally confusing. There's tons of weird terms like ATX 3.0, PCIe 5.0, 12-volt high power connectors, and more. And the old advice of just buying an 80 plus gold rated unit has been proven to be objectively terrible. But don't worry, we're going to cover all the key things that you need to know to buy the best PC PSU in 2024. And we'll make specific product recommendations at every budget level. If you get value out of this video, then please give it a like. This makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe, click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. Hey, with that, let's jump into it. Before that, this video is sponsored by VIP SCD Key. Say goodbye to crazy expensive Windows 10 licenses and that terrible Activate Windows 10 watermark. Right now, use the links in the video description, head over to VIP SCD Key, and get a Windows 10 Home or Pro OEM license for a great price. Pick your product license, then use the PC Builder discount code PC25 for an additional 25% off. Go to the activation settings on your PC, put in the code, and boom, you have a fully licensed Windows 10 for a crazy low price, which can be upgraded for free to Windows 11. Use the links in the video description below. Starting with the basics, PC power supplies come in two different sizes, called form factors. The most common size is the ATX form factor, widely used in regular size PC builds utilizing an ATX PC case or micro ATX PC case. Then we have SFX size PSUs, which are typically intended for mini ITX small form factor builds. Remember to match your PC case specs against your PSU to make sure it fits. Next up is PSU modularity, which just means whether or not you can remove the cables from the PSU. A non-modular PC power supply has all of its cables permanently attached, and a semi-modular PSU has the core cables permanently attached, with some of the cables able to be removed. A fully modular PSU can have all of its cables removed. Today, most PC cases have PSU shrouds, so modularity, it's mostly for convenience. Quick warning on modular PSU cables. While the connections on the device end are standard, the connections at the PSU itself are not. So never, ever mix and match cables with other modular or semi-modular PSUs to avoid serious danger. Now, some companies like CableMod offer complete replacement cables in different colors, but those are designed for specific PSU models and they plug directly into the PSU. Colored cable extension kits are available to either lengthen the cable itself or just add some cool color aesthetics to your build, including RGB cables. But these plug into the end of the cables that came with the original PSU and not directly into the PSU itself. Hence the term extension. Your PSU will come with several different cable types. For the motherboard, we have the 20 plus 4-pin adapter that typically attaches to the right side of the motherboard and at least one 4 plus 4-pin EPS cable that attaches to the top left of the motherboard. Note that some motherboards do have additional connections for a second EPS cable, and while most boards will run with only one EPS cable attached, I recommend getting a PSU that has enough EPS cables for your motherboard. Then we have SATA power cables, which are used for older SATA drives, but are also often used by fan and RGB hubs, some liquid coolers, and really any other device that needs power. Some PSUs also include the older Molex power cables, though few devices use these any longer. GPU power cables is where things get a bit confusing. First, we have the older standard PCIe GPU cables in 6-pin, 6 plus 2-pin, and 8-pin configurations. Virtually any GPU sold in the foreseeable future will be able to use these, or they'll come with an adapter so that they can be used. Your GPU may need multiple PCIe power cables, and while some cables come with the ability to daisy chain the connections, that means connect the same cable to the GPU more than once, I generally recommend using a separate cable for each connection, just to be super safe. Do note that some PSUs come with multiple PCIe cables that connect back to the same port, but they're clearly separate cables. Second, we have the newer 12-volt high-power cables currently used by many NVIDIA GPUs. These GPUs also come with adapters to use the older standard cables for older PSUs. Now, the new 12-volt high-power cable is available on power supplies with a PCIe 5.0 label. The 12-volt high-power cables have had quite a few issues, so special care should be used not to bend the connection point for the 12-volt high-power cable. Seasonic recommends not bending in the first 35 millimeters or about 1.4 inches to make sure it's fully seated. Due to the problems with this connector, like it melting sometimes, it has been redesigned and the new connector is now called the 12-volt 2x6. With PSUs and NVIDIA GPUs that support it being labeled ATX 3.1. Note that because the pins are on the PSU and the GPU side, There's no real change to the physical cable, and instead the change is on the PCB itself, on the GPU and the PSU. At the time of filming, I can't find any well-rated ATX 3.1 units on the market just yet, but once they're available, I lean towards spending a little extra to get one if you also have an NVIDIA GPU with an updated ATX 3.1 12-volt 2x6 connector. One final note on cables. Many of them, like the 4+4 EPS and 6+2 GPU cables, require you to push two ends together and then insert them. There's typically a little plastic lip on the cable connector that keeps them together as they're being pushed in. However, if you press the cable together incorrectly, it can actually keep you from being able to insert the cable, so make sure you've got it together correctly before trying to plug it in, especially in tighter spaces. Now let's talk about 80+ ratings, because they are total garbage and you should ignore them. That's right, I said ignore them. 80+ ratings were originally supposed to be a measure of power efficiency, not the build quality of the unit itself. Unfortunately, over time, they became a shorthand for many inexperienced PC builders who just thought you needed to get an 80+ gold-rated unit and you're fine. The reality is that there is very little efficiency difference between the lowest 80+ certification called white and even the highest 80+ certification called titanium. And worse, these ratings don't address the quality of the unit itself and whether it has the necessary protections to ensure your system gets the power it needs safely. That's why we've recently seen a number of exploding PSUs that were gold rated, while many bronze rated units have stronger build quality and protections. I'll leave a link to a Gamers Nexus video exposing how bad 80+ ratings are in the video description if you want a deeper dive. So if the 80+ certification doesn't make a good power supply for PC, what does? Well, a number of factors go into it. But to keep this simple, after all, you just want to buy the best power supply for PC, not design them, it breaks down into three factors. The first is how cleanly the unit supplies power, in particular, reducing something we call voltage ripple. The second is the quality of the PSU design and the materials used, especially the capacitors or caps, as they're often abbreviated, to ensure good operation and reduce the risk of things going seriously wrong. And third, are the protections present and actually working on the power supply to ensure that if something does go wrong, that the power supply handles it in a way that doesn't lead to a dangerous or explosive situation. For example, overcurrent protection for when the unit finds itself drawing too much current, over temperature protection for when the unit runs too hot, and short circuit protection in the case of a short circuit. I'll leave a link to an article that discusses these and other power supply protections in the video description so you can get more detail. Luckily, people in the community keep a list of units that have been tested. The most notable is the PSU Cultist list. Sounds a little weird, I know, but it's the name of a group of power supply enthusiasts. The PSU Cultist list, it breaks down PSUs into tiers based on the design, protection, and build quality, with A tier rated units being the best and F tier rated units being the worst. The tiers include units ranked in that tier, as well as in what are called low priority and speculative position, for power supplies that don't have a full formal review, but where enough info is known to roughly place that unit on a tier. I'll leave this list linked in the video description below. So what tier should you use in your next PC build or upgrade? Well, no matter what, I would never go below C tier, and I always prefer to get a better rated unit if the price is similar. At the budget build level, C tier is likely fine. As we go up in component power draw and the price of the system increases, we can think of going up a tier a little like insurance. So for mid-range price builds, I'm looking for a B or A tier rated unit. At the high end, I would only use an A tier rated PSU, especially when using high power drawing parts, or if I'm intending to heavily overclock the CPU or the GPU. The easiest way to search this list is to use your browser's search function. Usually it's Control F to pop up the search box, and then search each tier by manufacturer until you find your unit. So for the MSI MPG A1000G, we search for MSI and we find it immediately in the A tier under single rail. Note that sometimes a rating will only include certain sizes of a unit, so pay close attention. So how many watts does your PSU need? Well, the main challenge continues to be power spikes, primarily from GPUs, called transients. These transients have been measured up to nearly 3 times the rated GPU power draw over a short period of time. While PSUs should be able to handle quite a bit more than their rated load for a brief period of time, many people report their PC suddenly shutting off when gaming or under load. That's because the PSU's protections detected too much power being drawn, and it responds by killing power to the PC in order to protect your components. To avoid this and give ourselves some room for future GPU or CPU upgrades, I recommend conservatively oversizing your PSU. Now note that the newer ATX 3.0 and 3.1 PSUs are designed around guidelines that limit these spikes both in terms of size and duration. And while that's useful, and I'd recommend them over older PSUs at around the same price point, it doesn't fully mitigate the issue, and I still recommend being somewhat conservative in sizing. In 2024, I still feel that the best general advice for sizing your PSU is to take its rated draw of all your components in an application like PC Part Picker, then multiply that by 1.5. So for instance, if PC Part Picker tells me my draw is 500 watts, I multiply that by 1.5 and I get a minimum size of 750 watt power supply. This is an estimate, so if you get a weird number like 715 watts, then I just round up or down to the nearest 50 watt mark. And remember, this is a minimum. You can always go up. While some might feel this is overly conservative, I find that in the vast majority of builds, this method usually results in a recommended PSU wattage from about 600 watts to 850 watts, with most of the rest covered by 1000 watt units and only a handful of current configurations requiring more than 1000 watts. From a cost perspective, at least in the US at the time of filming, as we'll see in the recommendations, the difference in terms of price, it's relatively small. Let's jump into our specific product recommendations, all of which will be linked down in the video description. We're going to keep this list up to date if things sell out or new units come on the market. So check out those links for pricing and availability in your region. Starting off with PSUs in 1500 or 1600 watt variants. It's a lot of power, tons and tons of power. I expect this to be a relatively narrow audience. And as such, because you're drawing so much power, I highly recommend you get nothing other than something that's A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list. I'm gonna give you two here. The Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 13 1600 watt unit. Now this also comes in a lot of other variants as well. You can get 1300 watt, 1000 watt, 850 watt, 750 watt. I don't think those lower wattage units are necessarily worth it, but if you want to get it, you certainly can. This comes with pretty much everything under the sun. PCIe 5.0, ATX 3.0. I still can't find any at the time of filming, any ATX 3.1 units that have any kind of good rating on the market just yet. They are coming, and when they do, I will leave them linked down in the video description if you want to check that out. Right now, $399, fantastic for this unit. The other one I take a look at is the Corsair HX 1500i, where the Be Quiet was a 600 watt unit. This is a 1500 watt unit, hence the 1500i. Really, really good PSU. Now note, this unit is pretty long. Make sure it's gonna fit into your case. Not much else to say about it different than the Be Quiet unit, other than, ATX 3.0, PCIe 5.0, $359, a little bit cheaper at the time of filming. Let's quickly go through some lower wattage units because you can actually save quite a bit of money coming down to like 1300 and 1350 watt. The Thermal Tough Power GF3. Now there's a lot of different variants of this one, so this is the one you're looking for. PCIe 5.0, ATX 3.0, $199 for a 1350 watt unit. This is an incredible value out there. Another one to take a look at is this Superflower Lattice 7XG. 1300 watt unit. We use this in our Ryzen 7 950X and RTX 4090 video editing build that we built late last year when we first moved it to the city here. We absolutely love this unit. It is dead silent. $198 right now over at Newegg. Let's jump into A tier rated PSUs on the PSU Cultist list, and these range in wattage anywhere from 650 all the way up to 1200 watts, depends on which one. Let's start off with the one I'm kind of recommending the most right now. That's the MSI Mag AGL lineup. Now this comes in 750 watt and it comes in 850 watts, and then there's a 1000 watt unit I'll show you in just a moment. Basically, if you look at the PSU Cultist list, yes, it says speculative. However, there have recently been reviews that come out that basically are going to put this on the A tier. So don't worry about that. They just need to update the PSU Cultist list. Fingers crossed, let's get that done soon. It looks amazing. It's got the dragon logo on the side. So if you have a cutout on your PSU shroud and you can see the PSU, this is gonna look insane. Absolutely insane. We've used similar ones from their older lineup in a build and it looks amazing. It's fully modular. It's ATX 3.0, PCIe 5.0. The other older units, not really worth the price savings, not even really that much of a savings. $93 for 750 watts is pretty insane. I will say buying advice here, they've combined the older ones with the newer ones. You want the one that says PCIe 5. So if you want the 850 watt unit, you want this one, $115. Not bad for 850 watts. If you need 1000 watts, I recommend the MSI MPG A1000G. Now there's a GL unit that's supposed to hit the US. However, it hasn't hit yet. this is the one that you're going to want to buy. Still PCIe 5.0, ATX 3.0. We used this one in a build about a year or so ago. This is one of the very first PCIe 5.0 PSUs that came out. It looks insane. Looks insane. Was dead silent right now for $160. Let me give you some other alternatives that are A tier rated on the PSU Cultist list, starting with the Thermaltake Tough Power GF3. This comes in 750 watt units, 850 watt units, 1000 watt unit, all the way up basically. And I will say, I did note in customer reviews, I saw a number of fan noise complaints for the 1200 watt and the 1000 watt unit, not really the 750 watt or 850 watt units. So just something to keep in mind there as you're looking to buy one of these. Fully modular, most of these are going to be modular. It looks really nice if you have a PSU cutout shroud. It's got a really nice little label on the side of it. Not too much else to say. This comes with a 10-year warranty, which is 2 thumbs up there. The 750 watt unit starts at $99, which is a pretty good price. Another one to take a look at is the Corsair RM750E. Also comes in 850 watt units, 1000 watt units, and 1200 watt units, although for some reason, 1200 watt unit, not available at Amazon, is available at Newegg. I've linked them both down in the video description, so check those out for current pricing and availability. The only problems I have with this unit, I actually use one of these right now in the PC next to me. I did get one with a bad fan. It happens from time to time. However, I do note that other people have complained about the fan in the past. No recent complaints about it. Otherwise, it looks really sharp. It's fully modular. I like the Corsair cables working with them. $99 is for the 750 watt unit and goes up from there. Then we've got the Pure Power 12M by Be Quiet, another A tier rated unit. Now, this is speculatively A tier rated. However, just like with the MSI unit, there have been recent reviews of this that's going to basically place it on the A tier. These are the best priced of all of them. Fully modular, ATX 3.0, PCIe 5.0, everything you've come to expect from the other ones. Quiet, very quiet. However, another small little thing, if you have a PSU shroud that has a cutout where you can actually see through and see the PSU, for some reason, these 650 and 750 watt units, you're gonna see the ugly little label that looks like that, instead of the cool little logo that looks like this on the 850 watt and higher rated units. For some reason, I don't understand why that is. I hope Be Quiet fixes that. I got one of those. I was kind of unpleasantly surprised using the BitPhoenix Nova Mesh, which does have that cutout there. You can always vinyl wrap it or just get a case. It has a solid PSU cutout shroud because these are really, really cheap at $89 for 750 watt, and they tend to be the cheapest among these A-tier rated units. Let's jump into the best budget PC power supply 2024. And honestly, the market is improving, but it's still not fantastic out there. In the US at least. And there's one PSU that's basically carrying the load for all of budget gaming PCs out there, and that is the MSI Mag A550BM and the A650BN, and you guessed it, 550 watts, 650 watts, and they're bronze rated units. These are C tier rated on the PSU Cultist list. They've had the full teardown and everything. So 2 thumbs up there. And you can often find the 550 watt unit, although it's selling for about $60 right now. You can usually find about 10 bucks cheaper. Same with the 650 watt unit, currently selling about $70, often goes on sale for as little as $60, sometimes even cheaper than that. So check out those links down in the video description. Now, this is not going to be fully modular. However, the cables are fully sleeved. They're all black. That is going to look really nice. And especially if you've got a budget gaming PC that has a PSU cutout shroud or maybe no PSU shroud at all, the unit itself looks really nice. It's got really cool styling to it. So overall, thank you very much, MSI, for carrying the load. Hopefully other manufacturers are going to fill the gaps. If you do live in a market where you can't find that power supply or you can't find anything that's solidly C tier rated, then you got to kind of pick from whatever else is out there. I will say one unit that I have had some success with is the Apivia Prestige 600 watt. Now this is 80 plus gold certified. We all know that doesn't really mean anything. It is speculatively on the C tier based on its specs, basically, not on a full teardown review. But if you can't find that other unit out there and you just got to pick from whatever you can afford, this is a unit that I've used in the past successfully. It also now comes with fully black sleeved cables, which is 2 thumbs up there, $52 right now. Let's jump into the best SFX power supply for PC in 2024. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't think there's any reason to go away from the A tier on this. There's just not enough of a cost savings to go down to the B tier. The other thing is, there's not really that much of a cost savings to go away from ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5.0, the new standards. In fact, some of the older units have skyrocketed in price because I think they're just kind of running out. So let me give you two different ones that are A-tier rated, and they are PCIe 5.0 and ATX 3.0. The first one's the Thermaltake Tough Power. Now this one's $139 for the 750 watt unit. Also comes in 850 watt and 1000 watt variants. I'll leave those links down in the video description. I will say pricing on these tends to be kind of volatile. I don't know why that is, just tends to be a little bit volatile. So check out those links for pricing and availability in your region. But this is a great unit. It's fully modular, which you really want, with a small form factor build so you can take out all the extra cables that you don't need. The other one to take a look at is the Corsair SF850L. And it comes in 850 watt units, and it also comes in a 1000 watt unit. Now, I will say a little bit cheaper than the Thermaltake. Just note that the SFL part of it means that it is a little bit longer. It's about 30 millimeters longer than the traditional SFX power supply. So make sure it's going to fit in your case. Make sure to take the measurements, measure against the case specs, but otherwise really, really good. Everything I said about the Thermaltake also translate to this one in terms of PCIe 5.0, ATX 3.0, fully modular. 2 thumbs up. Remember to check out those links down in the video description for current pricing and availability in your region. And of course, if you got value out of this video, please give it a like. It really does make a difference to the channel. And of course, subscribe, click that bell icon. That way you get notified when we release cool content. And with that, we'll catch you on the next one.